We have been brainwashed to feel guilty for resting. Have you noticed that? Try taking a break. Try taking a day off. Try going on vacation. See how you feel. Notice that there's this sense of guilt that starts to arise. And maybe this is not the case for every single person, but I know that for myself, this has definitely been the case. And I've talked to many, many people who have experienced much of the same. So why is this? Why do we feel guilty for just not doing and working and hustling all the time? Well, if you think about it, this constant chase, this constant pursuit to do can be good. It can be productive. It can be helpful. And of course, there's like a time and place for productivity and having goals and going down the to-do list. Like that's part of life. However, what it can become is some kind of distraction from this like underlying feeling or emotion or belief that just hides beneath the shadows. And so the doing and the being overproductive and the overgiving and the showing up constantly, like all of that kind of stuff can be a coping strategy. It can be a way to escape something that we need to feel and sit with and investigate. And what do I mean by all of this? Well, what this typically boils down to is a belief, a subconscious belief that says, as I am not enough. It's unworthiness. It's the idea of being inherently unlovable. And so that's why we get so conditioned to become a somebody. I remember growing up as a kid, like people would always ask me, well, who do you want to be when you grow up? Right? And the way I understood that was value, worth, importance was somehow tied to what I would do. In other words, just as I was by my being, I wasn't enough, I wasn't worthy, I wasn't valuable, so I had to go prove it. And then, going through school and playing sports, like that would just reinforce this belief I had of the better I did, the better I performed, the better grades I got, the more acceptable and the more, the better I would feel about myself because I would get more praise and approval and validation and acceptance from my parents and family and friends and other people, right? So that's just what we're conditioned with. And then it becomes very addicting because there's always like this internal sense of reward. The more we're doing, the more we're getting done, right? Especially as we get older. It really builds up this sense of ego, this sense of who we think we are. And it becomes very addicting and we don't want to stop. Why? Because this is what's driving us. This is what's really hiding that deeper belief of, I know that if I'm just going to sit with myself, the thoughts I'm going to have, the feelings, all these things that will start to arise when I have nothing to distract myself will be too much for me to deal with. Right? And so I think that has a lot to do with why we feel so guilty for resting. Because it's pointing to the deeper belief of, as I am not enough. I need to be doing something all the time to, number one, prove my worth and value to others and to myself, mainly to myself. And the more I do, the better I'll be, right? It's just like this illusion. But is it ever that? That's the question to really sit with. Like, is it ever enough, the work we do and what we create and what we build and what we accomplish? No, typically it's never enough, right? The goalpost is always getting pushed back, and that's what keeps the chase going, which some people like the chase. And again, you get a lot done, it works, but do you get that sense of ultimate fulfillment and inner peace? The answer is no, you don't. And then we try to resort to peace. We try to go on vacation. We try to experience what the soul is longing for. But this is the cycle, right? Once we're there, once we're relaxed, there's always that thought in the back of the mind, Like, well, you could be doing this, or you're missing out on this much work this week, which means you won't get paid as much, or you won't get as much done, or you won't get as much approval or likes on social media or a following, or etc. Right? So the first place to really start with this kind of investigation of why we feel this way is to really ask yourself, like, okay, am I actually going to feel what I really want to feel if I just keep doing more and I put more on the to-do list and I spend more time, more hours working? Is that going to lead to what my soul was actually longing for? My mind thinks it will, my ego thinks it will, but that's the illusion, because it's never enough. So if the way to actually experience inner peace and wholeness and liberation and excitement and just that sense of like enjoying life, having fun, if that comes with taking a break and returning to the heart space and sitting in stillness and listening to music and going for a walk and just being in nature and meditating, like those kinds of things, like if that's what actually leads us to the experience of true fulfillment and true inner peace, why don't we actually spend more time doing those things? And again, I know what you're going to say, well, because I try, but then I have the guilt. But I just unpacked that lie, that illusion for you. Because that's not the way, because it's never been the way. It never actually leads to what the soul is longing for. And that's how we actually let go. That's how we actually transcend. That's how we actually evolve, by seeing the truth, by becoming curious. I always talk about this. Why? Curiosity is one of the most important qualities that we have as divine beings, because the more we question, the more we investigate these different subconscious beliefs, the more they dissolve, and all that's left is truth. And then the soul can actually experience what it wants to experience, which is connection and freedom and wholeness and peace and joy and laughter and just like these simple things. And that's the other thing. Gosh, I could talk about that for a while. Simplicity. The soul wants simplicity. The soul doesn't like complicated things and more and the chase and the striving. It's simplicity. There's so much fulfillment and contentment in simplicity. The mind doesn't like it, but the soul, that's what the soul knows. That's where the soul comes from. That is home, beingness, rest, taking it easy. And so what I'm focusing on now in my own personal life is, number one, making more time for rest, making more time for just being in my heart space. But I'm also like, when I'm there, I'm noticing, okay, is there any guilt? Which at this point, there's really not that much guilt anymore. It's rare for that to come up because of what I've been focusing on and working on within myself. But if the guilt does come up, I just let it be there. I feel it. I feel the guilt, because give it 5-10 minutes. When you actually feel the guilt and you're not pushing it away and you're not scared of it and you're not like resorting to some coping mechanism, that guilt, which is just energy, starts to leave the body. It starts to dissolve like a cloud in the sky. And then you see, hey, this was just a manifestation, an expression of some kind of old conditioning of being not enough. But as I face the shadow, as I sit with it, as I feel it, it goes away. It just dissipates. And then there's this peace that surpasses all understanding. And you can actually rest. I love just like getting or experiencing that place of peace that surpasses all understanding. Because there's just this intuitive sense of, this is home. This is the ground. This is where we're supposed to be living from. And I love these experiences when I have them, because I'm reminded every time. that this is the nature of our being. Think about it. We're human beings, not human doings, right? And so there is a time and place for doing, for aligned action, but it should be stemming from being. It should be stemming from rest and presence. And when that happens, there's a flow to the action. There's a flow to the doing. And it doesn't feel exhausting. It doesn't feel like chasing or striving or pretending or performing. It feels like authenticity. It feels like realness. And it's very magnetic and it's very attractive. And that's how you know, because synchronicities start showing up and there's a peace with the action and it's super creative and you're getting these different ideas and insights and it's magical. That's how you know when it's aligned action from being. From your being, you're doing. You're not doing to be. That's the difference. See? When we get into these patterns of doing, and striving and trying to accomplish all these things, we're typically doing it from this place of, like I said, the deeper underlying belief of, as I am not enough, so I have to do all these things to become enough. See? Not only is the doing a distraction from the inherent feeling or belief, but it's some kind of attempt to get away from that and to prove that belief wrong. But the thing is, you don't have to prove that belief wrong because it's false. It's not true. So there's nothing to prove wrong. You see? And by getting into the subconscious, feeling that belief and really getting curious around, like, when did this start? Oh, it started when I was a kid because of this or that. And then you question that and you see that it was just someone else's conditioning being projected onto you. It had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with their own perception of you, and you accepted it as yourself. But then you go beyond that and you see that it's not the truth. Once you know, then there's freedom. You will know the truth, and the truth is what sets you free, right? This is what this is. It's a seeing, it's a knowing, it's a direct experience. And that which is false dissipates. So, yeah, I just want to be clear when I say, I'm not saying, oh, we should just totally stop doing, because there's a time and place for doing, but it has to be the right kind of doing that's coming from this place of rest. And when you're balanced, when you're living in harmony with the Tao, then you're like, when you're resting, you're actually creating all of this energy for immense productivity. So you actually end up getting more done from this state of being instead of from the go, do mentality. You get so much more done. You're more efficient. There's more clarity. There's more consciousness in what you're doing. And it's super productive. So that's a lot of, that's a major misconception I think a lot of people have. They think, oh, the less I do, the less productive I'll be. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. When there's a balance, when you're living according to nature and circadian rhythm, and you're resting physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, if you want to break it all up into those different aspects, it's all the same thing. It's all the same energy manifesting in different forms. But anyway, when there's that kind of rest and you're okay with resting, you love to rest, you love to relax, you love to be, you love to sit in the stillness, then life becomes exciting. And like I said, there's all these different ideas that arise from seemingly nothingness. They arise from the void, which, when you really think about it, everything that is a thing came out of the pure, infinite nothingness, the void, the stillness, the silence. That is the womb of all creation. So this is not a negative thing, and we need to stop demonizing rest. We need to stop demonizing taking breaks and going on vacations and like choosing yourself, doing what you know gives your soul rest and whatever is restorative for you, right? I know for me, like I said, my soul, I know my soul loves simplicity. And so when I'm just sitting out in nature, maybe listening to some music that really opens up my heart, and I'm just sitting there observing in my heart space, my brain waves are slowing down into the alpha brainwave state. In that moment, there's nothing that I want. There's nothing that I necessarily need. There's this sense of inherent wholeness. There's this sense of this is enough and contentment, like I said. And you're totally one with the moment. You're experiencing present moment awareness. The mind is not being distracted by things of the past or the future. It's just totally grounded in the now. And yeah, this is to me where the balance starts. And while you're experiencing that kind of rest or taking that break or having you time, in that moment, you're actually loving it. And you know that this is what you need. This is part of balance. This is where we're supposed to be living from. This is the ground of being. This is where everything stems from. This is nourishing my soul. This is transforming me from the inside out. Again, it becomes something that you look forward to and you prioritize. And it's something that is daily. And just my recommendation, I like starting my day for the first few hours with something that has to do with stillness, meditation, walking, connecting with nature, being outside, grounding, music, sometimes writing, poetry, journaling. Then there's a time to work, right, during the day. And you'll be amazed. If you start your day with time, it doesn't have to be that long, maybe just an hour of focusing on you, focusing on rest, focusing on being present, stillness. Then when you start working that day and doing the different things that you need to do and responsibilities and all of that, again, like I said, there's going to be a grace to it. It's going to be very efficient, and you're going to notice the harmony and rhythm that is overflowing from the place of rest and stillness and beingness that you began the day with. And then I also like to end my day with that same approach, that same posture of slowing down. I know my brain waves are naturally slowing down. My brain is starting to produce melatonin, which is conducive to me actually having a good night's rest, which is very important, as you know, rest for the physical body. When we're sleeping, getting good sleep. And so when I notice that this is the natural flow of the Tao, this is the natural flow of life, like my body is starting to wind down, then the things that I'm now experiencing are connected, are in alignment with that. And I start listening to music or meditating or just relaxing, doing things that don't require me to be in my headspace where I'm overthinking, overanalyzing, and just focused on past or future stuff. So this has been so helpful. It's been life-changing. And I'm just noticing how this is just about balance. It's really what it is. It's about balance and simplicity and honesty. And I know these are typically the things we don't hear a lot of in like the whole spiritual world. And sometimes we do, but oftentimes there's just a lot of focus on, I don't know, just all these other things, which can be very exhausting. Again, it can get back into performance mode. It can get back into the more you do, the better you are. And it just doesn't have to be that way. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a new perspective, and I'm trying to share this message, and I'm trying to show people that this is part of actually living fully. This is what abundant life is actually all about. This is what we were designed for as human beings. It's time we start resting more. It's time we start slowing down. It's time we start focusing on what matters most and actually enjoying the simple, common, mundane, ordinary elements of life. This is something you'll start to notice. The more you start to rest in your being, the more you're in the presence, in the stillness, your consciousness will start to expand because you are allowing yourself to have that clarity in that space. And you'll start to fall in love with these simple things that before you didn't even know were there. You'll start to notice these simple, subtle things in life, especially in nature or when you're listening to music, and it will just start to open up your heart, and you'll feel this immense sense of gratitude and love and peace and freedom. And authenticity comes from that. And it's beautiful. I mean, I can't get over some of the things I've been experiencing where, because I'm in my heart space, it's like everything that I'm experiencing, whether it's like a simple meal or a walk through nature or just watching a funny movie or something, just something as simple as those things just becomes like heaven on earth for me. Spending time with people that I love, relationships, like, to me, that's what heaven is. Heaven isn't some like place far off in the distance in the sky that we might go to when we die. No, for me, heaven is a state of being. Heaven is actually what we are. We are heaven. And when the clouds and the conditionings and all those things, the egoic roles and structures fade away, all that's left is heaven, which is life itself, which is the Tao, there's so many different names for it, but you fall in love with that. And yeah, it really does change everything, and your perspective changes. I like that quote from Wayne Dyer where he said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, and that's exactly what happens. You understand the power of your consciousness, the power of your perspective, the power of your belief, and how it's literally shaping everything you're experiencing. And heaven and hell are states of consciousness within you that are formed through belief and perception. So, yeah, heaven is a very real experience right here, right now, but it tends to be found in the simplicity, which, again, in order to experience that can come with sitting with all the conditionings, all the beliefs that are preventing us from that. And that's where shadow work comes in, where you're actually allowing yourself to feel, to embody these energies that have been blocked and repressed or suppressed for years or decades. But as you go into the wave, as you go into the cave, as you embrace the shadow, that is when everything starts to shift. It dissolves, and the clear blue, infinite, peaceful sky that's always been there is now very much apparent and very experiential. And yeah, I think of that quote from Joseph Campbell where he said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." So whatever the energy is, whatever the emotion is that's arising when you're just sitting, if it's guilt, if it's shame, if it's fear, if it's anxiety, don't run from it. It's trying to show you something. Sit with it. Breathe with it. Feel it. And follow it into your subconscious, where you will find some kind of belief of, as I am, without doing anything, I am not enough. Sit with that even more. Question it. Investigate it. Bring the light of your presence into that shadow and see what happens. Because what that belief is a part of your subconscious, a part of your inner child that never received the love, the acceptance, the validation that you deserved, that they deserved, that they were longing for. And people say, oh, that's so complicated. I don't, when I go into my subconscious and I'm facing these different beliefs, these shadows that are preventing me from just like being myself and resting and relaxing, guilt-free. When I try to do that, it gets complicated because I'm trying to figure out how to love this part of myself that I've never known how to love. And what I say is, your awareness, just your presence is unconditional love. It is the light of the world. So you don't have to try to love these different aspects of your shadow self. Just bring the awareness there. And that is enough. That is the light that dissipates the darkness. That is unconditional love, because you are unconditional love. So, yeah. It's time we start to just be. It's time we start resting more and not feeling bad about it. It's time we start coming together with no agenda or expectation or striving, and just being with one another in presence, in stillness, in silence. I think as we start to do this, especially collectively, we will start to see an immense transformation occur in the collective consciousness of humanity. When we start slowing down, when we start living from presence, from the now, and falling in love with the simplicity of life. It truly is life-changing. So I think that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, informative, or insightful, please leave a thumbs up at the bottom of the screen, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.